Great to have a badass on the show, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. A badass who's getting up there in age, but thank you.
You still in pretty good shape, my friend. I'm here today with Lou Valoze. It's called Operation Undercover. Wow, I got to see, I guess it was Oxford, Alabama that you were in. Talk about Operation Undercover.
James, we put together a show that is unlike any show that anyone has ever seen. We're going to take the viewer inside the covert world of undercover operations. We're not doing recreations. We got embedded with these departments, police departments, sheriff departments all over the country. And they allowed us full access to get into their world. And we were there for these operations. These brave men and women are going into dangerous situations, and we're right there. You're going to see them going into hotel rooms, into parking lots to meet with real bad people. And they're going to be conducting undercover transactions, buying guns, buying drugs, disrupting human trafficking operations. And we're right there for all of it. And then you're going to see what they do about it in the end, how they take these operations down, kicking in doors, executing search warrants, arrest warrants. It is a wild ride, and no one has ever seen this before.
I'd never seen it before. You kind of caught me off guard when I did get a chance to see this particular episode. Tell us about using informants.
Informants are the most valuable asset that law enforcement has to disrupt criminal organizations. Informants kind of live in a world that's in between good and bad. All right. You need informants because they can go places that law enforcement can't go, and they can bring back that information. And that is incredibly useful for intelligence gathering. And then what else they can do is they can introduce an undercover officer to members of that criminal organization. And that allows the undercover officer, now it's on the undercover officer to take it and run with it. Okay, and to ingratiate themselves, embed themselves with the members of this organization so they can further gather evidence, buy drugs, buy guns, whatever that organization is doing out there to dismantle that whole operation. Informants are essential to law enforcement, but specifically in the undercover world.
Speaking of the, what's going on, Operation Undercover in law enforcement, I'm going to use Oxford, Alabama as an example. It kind of caught me off guard. Where does the funding come from? Because these guys were well equipped.
Very well equipped. It was actually very impressive when I got there because I didn't really know anything about Oxford, Alabama when we got there. Not a big city at all. Yeah, they were very well equipped. The majority of that money comes from seizures. Okay, they're involved in task forces with DEA and ATF and other federal agencies, and they do asset forfeiture. So when there's seizures, large amounts of cash and vehicles, even aircraft and all that, they can participate in the asset forfeiture, and they get a piece of that. And that's where most of the money comes from, that to equip them with what they need to do in the undercover world.
Man, I was totally impressed with the whole thing, especially with the guy who had the motorhome and all the vehicles around. And
What a scene that was. This guy was putting a ton of meth out on the streets, in this small city of Oxford, Alabama. And, this guy was, you saw what they were able to seize during that, even guns, a huge amount of methamphetamine, even an explosive device. Yeah, this was a bad guy. He was out in the middle of nowhere, and he was just putting poison out on the street.
man, it's crazy. Been speaking with Lou Valoze. I'm gonna say it again, badass. I don't care what age, you're still great shape, you're still doing your thing. Operation Undercover on Discovery. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend. Really appreciate the work you do and law enforcement does. Thank you so much.
James, it's been my honor, man. Thank you for having me here, sir.
All right.